Okay, so now we're going to be going over one of the portions of the pectoral girdle, which you're familiar with hopefully by this point, called the scapula. It's characterized as a flat bone. Don't ask me why, I'm not too sure. We are familiar with some of the borders of it already. We know that the medial border is located here, which must mean this is our lateral border. If you're ever in a pinch, I kind of remember it as it sort of makes an L with the coracoid process, which we'll get to in a minute, but L for lateral. And we have a superior border up here. And on that superior border, we have a superior angle. This is peak. You guessed it, you have an inferior angle as well. And I would just like to point out there is no such thing as an inferior border on the scapula. It does not exist. Okay, so we're looking at it posteriorly right now, and one of the major landmarks you can see from the posterior border is this acromion process, which is up here. Now this acromion process has an acromion facet on it, which will articulate with a clavicle. Now I'll grab one here so you can kind of see what I'm talking about, but this is how they fit together, and you can notice they do not fit nicely as a bone on bone rather. And this is because this connection is ligamentous. So the AC joint, the acromioclavicular joint, is if you can picture a ligament connecting this clavicle here and the scapula here, as that does not make a nice flush connection, as you might be able to infer from that. Okay. So moving on from the acromion, I'm actually going to spin this now to an anterior view. And we see the coracoid process. Right? And this will not have a bony attachment either. It'll have a lot of muscular and tendinous, which we'll get into in later models. But that's not why you're here. You're here for bony landmarks. So back onto the posterior surface, if I don't break the bone, we have the spine of the scapula, shown here. And this is really important for localization because this spine of the scapula helps form or helps demarcate the supra, let me say that again, supraspinous fossa. And that makes sense. Supra above, the spine is right here. So supraspinous fossa, which if you're savvy with the shoulder muscles already, the supraspinatus will occupy. And then we have the infraspinous fossa, which I'm tracing with my pointer here, which same kind of reasoning. Infra means below, spine is here, so the infraspinous fossa, which is conveniently named because the infraspinatus will occupy this fossa. So don't mix these up, they're not too hard. The next thing we're missing is going into the glenoid. So now I'm going to turn this to a lateral view. And we can see the coracoid here anteriorly, the acromion here posteriorly, and the glenoid cavity shown here. So we need to know two parts of the glenoid cavity. We have a supraglenoid tubercle, which is located on the top of this, and an infraglenoid tubercle, which is right here. So it's the same kind of reasoning as before with the infra and supraspinatus, but now we're in the glenoid, so it's supra and infra glenoid tubercles. Okay, and that is actually all we need to know for the scapula.